Neurons fire off by the billions. Information flows from input organs to the brain at blistering speeds. Thoughts form in a mere trillionth of a second, reaction speeds that put conventional computers to shame, working in perfect harmony to create a monster of mind. I am the cutting edge of humanity. Hundreds of billions of humans sifted through for a specific set of traits and capabilities. Only a couple thousand or so met the requirements that the Sol Republic had set. I signed up to be a pioneer, thinking that a few years off my life to secure retirement in my 20s was the best deal anyone could get. Oh, you're kinda cute. It doesn't matter how fast my brain could go if I don't fucking use it. I could make up hundreds of excuses right now. My emotions are still numbed for the trip. I haven't had any interaction with a living being for months. The feds should have known what they were getting when they asked for antisocial geniuses that could deal with being alone. The list goes on. None of these mattered because in the grand scheme of things, I was the solution for the home system's overpopulation, and I was trained for years so that I can at least act like it. And now I've gone and smashed my nose in on the very first sentence. I mean, it was definitely some sort of cruel joke. Back when I lived on Triton, one of Neptune's moons, I kept a few mice as pets. It got pretty lonely on a rock in the Outer 3 area that was just around 30 Kelvin above absolute zero. And this person that I just got slightly startled by, not expecting a video feed, looked pretty damn close to a mouse. Shorter nose, bigger eyes, smaller ears compared to a normal mouse's proportions, shock white fur, and draped in reflective golden robes. Words came out before anything was thought through, and now I have to dig myself out of a hole. What if these mice people, Meldrin, according to the data dump my AI provided, were cruel and sadistic warlords that would interpret my loose remark as an insult? Well, it's not like that train of thought would get me anywhere, since the answer would always lead to hostile takeover. But I should still try to salvage this as much as possible. Maybe just pretend that nothing happened and act normally?
The stress is causing hallucinations. Yep, there is no other explanation. It was just my brain tricking me to stop me from hearing what might have just been a declaration of war. This thing, enough to give adults nightmares for months, opened a video communication and bared its teeth on full display as a first contact, and then attempted to compliment me? Maybe I just wasn't fit for office, if merely staring into death itself and being crushed by despair was enough to cause me hallucinations. One of my secretaries, Millie, was fortunately outside of view of the camera when she fell to the ground with a startling thump. That definitely got caught in the audio. My other secretary, Dana, who did happen to be in view of the camera, had frozen solid. He wasn't even breathing anymore. Oh my God, did he die of shock? My train of thought was abruptly vaporized when the demon started talking again. Greetings, Governor. My name is Dominique Reynolds, and I serve as an envoy for the Sol System Republic of Humanity. I come in search of friendly relations. Is it just going to brush over the first remark? Okay, fine by me. Not like I was going to challenge the demon on anything. Friendly relations? So it was the cruel type, huh? The type that waited in excruciating anticipation as it lulled its victim into a sense of security and trust right before pouncing, ripping meat off the bones and savoring the gurgling attempts at screaming. I wanted to run away, hide in some closet and just wait it out. As far as I know, the wrong word was enough to cause an invasion if it wasn't guaranteed already. Scanners picked up just the one ship, a bit oversized for a civilian transport ship, but may have been average for their kind. But there has never been a foreign affair delegation consisting of just one ship. Maybe the rest were staying just outside of scanner range, or maybe they had some advanced cloaking technology and were already surrounding the planet, patient for the perfect moment to strike. I couldn't bring myself to respond. I'm not even sure if I still had control over my body, but I had to get something out. Anything. Not even acknowledging them is probably the worst thing I could do. Come on, Destra. You are the leader of the entire damn planet. This is your job, so do it. Squeak. The demon does something with its face. It contorts, bends, the mouth makes an arc and the eyes grow wide, and then it makes a sound unlike anything I've ever heard. Like the air is being squeezed out of it repeatedly. If I heard that sound normally, I would connect it to someone being repeatedly stomped in the chest. But the demon was making this sound with what seemed like a demented mockery of a smile, its teeth peeking from behind its lips. Is everything okay, Governor? Under no circumstance was anything okay, and the demon definitely knew that. As a matter of fact, it was the cause of everything not being okay. I was about to burst at the seams with stress. My secretaries had been incapacitated by just the look of this thing. There was a very real chance that my people were minutes away from being wiped from the planet. And there was the chance that everything hung on my words, or that anything I said was simply entertainment for the demon before it pulled the trigger. I'm fine. It was a miracle that I could form coherent words. If my race somehow survived, tales of my bravery at this moment would be immortalized in song and story. That is a very big if, however. My most important goal right now is to try to appeal to the demon and save my race no matter the method. Surrender. What? I surrender, okay? It felt like I had just jumped from a high-rise. A sense of weightlessness overtook me as I realized what I had just done. I raised my voice. Me. The hapless victim left to the whims of this demon. When you jump off a building, the sense of weightlessness is quickly followed by turning into a bright yellow stain on the pavement. All I can hope for is that the impact only affects me at this point. Bracing myself for... I think there has been a misunderstanding.
Objectively speaking, the direction that this exchange had taken made my mission a lot easier to execute. The grand leader of the Meldrin was acting like a complete pushover, and I'm sure I could sign a wicked deal if I applied a bit of pressure. The moons on the origin planet were no-brainers, being the ideal distance from the sun and all that. There was also a gas giant in the local system that we would gladly exploit, and the Meldrin would be none the wiser since they mainly stayed on the homeworld instead of expanding to other celestial bodies. Honestly speaking, the governor of the planet was terrified, and it worried me. The data dump informed me that the Meldrin had interacted with other extraterrestrials, meaning humanity was late to the party, and the governor acting like this made me think that those others might have been less than friendly. If everything went well, other pioneers would find those planets and take care of the problem before it turned towards us. Selfishly speaking, I wanted to get the hell off this ship and onto the ground. The ship was just finishing the orbit burn, and I'd be passing over the governor's building in a few minutes, so it was the perfect time to jump down. I'll ask for permission, but I'm going down there whether I get it or not. I'd prefer if we could continue this discussion face-to-face. The trip here has been a bit rough. Do I have permission for planetfall? Maybe that was a bit pushy. I did feel bad for imposing myself, but I'm losing both patience and time before the landing window. A moment passed before I got a response. Yes, then we should send a shuttle to you? That won't be necessary, and I'll be making sure it doesn't happen. Last thing I want is some alien vessel near my ship. This thing, as much as I was fed up with it, was my lifeline, and I would not be putting it in any sort of harm's way. I'll be coming directly to you. The governor let out another squeak before nodding and closing the call. I grabbed a supply pack, stepped into an ejection pod, which was really just a coffin-shaped heat shield with a set of jets to slow my fall, and began the countdown. Please come back safely. The ship's AI was made to mimic a real person. I knew deep inside that there wasn't any actual emotion behind that request, but it still gave me a sense of obligation. It was really the only thing that kept me sane during the trip. After talking to it for a few weeks, I started noticing patterns in its responses and could predict what it would say with some success. But after a month or two, when I forgot how to count time and spent my waking hours worried if I was even moving or not. I've always prided myself in being headstrong, but the AI was the only thing that pulled me back from stepping out the airlock to check if it wasn't all just a dream. Falling down to a planet after months of mostly weightlessness was jarring even with all my implants. It wasn't as bad as if I had been falling towards Earth per se, thanks to the slightly lower gravity and thinner atmosphere, but it definitely wasn't comfortable. The heat shield had served its purpose and was discarded, leaving only the set of jets attached to my back. These things had enough juice to bring me back up to my ship the next time it circled around, so it's not like I was stranded. The view was absolutely breathtaking. The governor's building was a massive red, white, and gold marble mansion with an open court in the center. Quartz roads spread out from the entrance like tendrils, covering the acres of trimmed gardens and fountains in front. If anything, these Meldrin knew how to be fancy. I spotted a trio of them in front of the main entrance, though none of them looked like the governor. Upon landing and finally getting a good look at these Meldrin, the first thing I realized just how short they are. I was average height for a Tritonian at exactly 2 meters tall, and these people were maybe half my size. While their heads and bodies looked like those of mice, they walked on 2 legs and had 6 fingers in each hand. Their body proportions were pretty close to those of a human, and their mouths featured a full set of flat teeth instead of the buck teeth that mice had. They wore robes of different colors on top of traditional clothing, maybe signifying rank. I stood up straight and stretched my hardest stretch yet, breathing in the slightly sweet-smelling air. For the first time in months, I stood still and felt a moment of true silence. No thruster shaking me without end, no status reports or small talk from my ship's AI, no beeping and whirring of the countless systems built into the walls. It was midday right now, and feeling the sun on my skin, unobstructed by a meter-thick window, gave an indescribable sense of warmth. The phytocells in my skin that could get me classified as a plant finally started working again after the months inside the ship, giving me a new sense of energy and uplifting my spirits. Snapping back to reality, my enhanced vision immediately noticed the governor looking at me from behind a tinted window in the mansion. Seems like they're still terrified. I sure hope I can show that my priority is peaceful negotiation. I brought my attention back to the 3 Meldrin waiting near the main entrance. They were talking amongst themselves. My heightened hearing picked up that they were still figuring out how to address me. Considering their behavior so far, I decided to let them come and greet me when they're ready. It's not like I was in a rush. I could happily stand here for the next couple hours just soaking in the atmosphere.
It really was the worst timeline. First contacts had always just been wireless communication between ships and planets, and extraterrestrial making planetfall during one was unprecedented. Differences in atmosphere, gravity, temperature, and a million other factors couldn't just be ignored unless proper planning had taken place first. That meant that this contact was premeditated. We had been scouted by them without even an inkling of a warning, and now we were paying the price for being blind. It's not like I could deny the demon entry to the planet. I was very aware that I had pretty much no control of the situation. We didn't have any measures against threats in space, and the nearest Allied military force was a day away at best. Distress signals had been sent out, but I very little hoped that it would make a difference at this point. I offered a shuttle to the surface in hopes of showing hospitality, but was promptly brushed off. Honestly, that was probably for the better, since I doubt any pilot we had would be capable of flying with that thing on board. Watching the demon descend from the sky on streams of fire was a surreal experience. Secretary Millie had woken up after the call was cut, and I had sent her out with a couple of efficients to escort the demon. My goal was to buy as much time as possible before aid came. All I could hope for was that as long as this thing remained on the planet, we would be safe from annihilation on the account of their species not firing at themselves. I had a couple minutes to steel my nerves before I met the thing face to face. I thought back on the words that had been exchanged so far, and how outside of its initial display, it hadn't shown any direct aggression. Us Meldrin were hardwired to see a set of teeth as a threat, historically relying on running away from beasts and avoiding confrontations as methods of survival. We had obviously reached the point of evolutionary superiority with our intelligent minds and knack for tool manipulation. But there were very high walls between our cities and any land preserved for nature. This notion was shared by the vast majority of alien species, barring a few outliers like those that came from mostly aquatic worlds and the like. And I hadn't really considered that the gesture might have had a different meaning for their kind, considering how rare that was. Focusing back on the trio that had been sent out, I noticed that Millie had finally started approaching. I've known her for as long as I've been in the political scene, and she saved my skin more than a few times throughout my career. I felt bad sending her out first, but she'd insisted on it, saying that I shouldn't be exposed to unknown dangers if it can be helped. And now, my jaw was agape watching horror unfold before me. She tripped while walking towards the demon, and it took that moment as a chance to pounce. In the blink of an eye, my friend that I had shared the ups and downs of most of my life with was in the arms of a monster, and all I could do was let out an anguished cry in despair.